Hey everyone, this is Molly from EGM, and I got a chance recently to go hands-on with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, the first thing I should probably tell you is that I'm not an Assassin's Creed fan. I've known about the series for its entire existence. I've dabbled here and there in playing parts of different games, but I've never actually sat down and played through an entirety of any of the franchise's chapters.
Hello,
But
and welcome.
I've kind of started to get more interested in the series lately, with the release of Origins and then Odyssey, because I kind of like some of the ideas behind some of the gameplay changes they've been making, but I do know that some of that might be controversial to longtime fans. So I think the franchise, is in an interesting place between people like me who might be coming to it now because it's becoming something different and that's making us more interested, versus the fans who have been here for a long time and who maybe don't necessarily like all the changes that are happening. So that's where I'm coming from in this playthrough. I'm going to show you some different parts of what I got to see. I played about 3 hours of the game or so, which of course with a game of this size, it's only just a little taste. And the very first thing I got to see is what you're looking at right now, which is the settlement. Now, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the settlement's going to be a big new part of the game. You're going to be able to build this up and, bring in people to... I guess I want to compare it to Suikoden, because that's kind of my point of view on things. That's my reference point. I don't know if Suikoden is exactly the right comparison to make or not. That's how I would be thinking about it, and you'll see a little bit of it here, but I didn't, given I only had about 3 hours or so, I didn't want to spend too much time in the settlement, so you'll just kind of get to see a quick view of it, but not like
Tell me
in-depth.
more about Leicestershire. I should like to join Sigurd soon.
He traveled to a town called Repton to meet Ubba and Eva Ragnarsson. As I hear it, they are on the verge of exiling the current king of Mercia, with the hope of installing a king of their own.
A bold endeavor. I should be there to help however I can.
I think you should.
So basically, the story that you were just hearing a little piece of right now is kind of the crux of what I got to play.
I won't keep them waiting.
Good. I will send word to Sigurd and the Ragnarssons, pledging your assistance. If I were you, I would go by ship. Repton is quite a distance north on the River Trent.
So Sigurd is your character's brother. And of course, in Valhalla, like in Odyssey, you get to pick the gender of your main character, which I guess maybe is part of the reason why I'm kind of liking or being drawn more towards the newer generation of Assassin's Creed. Instead of having that one singular set character, the game's going more towards... I mean, it's not a custom character, it's not like a Dark Souls or... older school Western RPGs where it's like you're completely customizing your character. It's more kind of the Mass Effect-y direction where you have some say of your character, but it's not complete customization. But I think too, one of the things that really appeals to me about Valhalla is it's such a different type of character for the series. At least to me, being a non-fan, I'm just screwing around here. This kind of Viking warrior. I think of Assassin's Creed, and I'm definitely going to get into this point a little bit later, but I've always thought of Assassin's Creed as the kind of, stealthier, sneakier, not the big brute kind of character, and Valhalla changes that. And I haven't played Odyssey, I haven't played Origins, so I'm not sure how, I'm not going to say their names because I'm going to screw them up. I think Bayek is in Origins. But so I just, part of what intrigues me about this game, and part of what I found interesting playing it, was coming from this kind of brutal Viking warrior angle. But the question becomes then, is this still Assassin's Creed? Which I will ask later, but Anyway, so like I said, then just
I've got
kind of
some
showing on
new
the settlement
things
here. Looking around at things.
Make sure you talk to your Raven regularly. They like that.
So the Raven, I know this is an option in some of the previous Assassin's Creed. Was like the Eagle Vision or Eagle Sight or whatever it was called. Like it's the same kind of thing here. I'm not sure what the Fireflies did. I said a lot of this was kind of just me poking around and seeing what was where. But the point that we were playing in is we were dropped in. You know, I wasn't sure going in if we were going to just play like the first X number of hours of the game, but we kind of got dropped in at a certain point where our characters had already been decently built up. So there were some things like the settlement where I can't tell you exactly how far along this is in progress, you know. Like how much work had to go into making the settlement become this. But the story, of course, is that, you know, your Viking warriors, you've come to what we now can think of as modern-day England, and you're invading. And it's interesting, and this is something I'll get to later on as well, is it's interesting to be playing this only a few months after Ghost of Tsushima. You know, these two big games this year that are about kind of one group of people being invaded by another. So anyway, I was told, you know, I gotta go find Sigurd, my brother. I was suggested that I should take a boat because it will be easier, and it definitely was a long trip to where I was supposed to be going. So in a second here, I'll be hopping on a boat.
I've traveled this great country and found all manner of secrets, plus a few points of interest. For a price, my maps can be yours. If you want access to my maps, I need access to a workshop. If you can build me something, I'd appreciate it. Keep exploring.
Like him or hate him, Ubisoft are known for their open world maps, and they definitely seem alive and well in this game. You know, I think it's one of those things where it's just like, how much have you played recently? You know, is how burnt out do you get on this stuff,
Whatever
and then do you like
need
it?
for your longship, my husband and I are happy to help. We have quite an eye for these things. Goodbye,
You know,
Eivor.
it's funny because I think about that point we got in gaming where everybody was saying that zombie games needed to die because there were just so many and they were so played out, and here I am as somebody who loves zombie games, and I will always take more. So it's a case of, I know people are out there that, I have some coworkers who are this way, who just love the kind of give me a map and throw a bunch of things onto it and let me go and complete every single one of those little points. And I'm kind of in between, you know. So here, this is interesting to me. Again, as somebody, and I'll be saying this probably a lot, as somebody who hasn't played much of the previous Assassin's Creed, I know Black Flag, I think it was, the one where you're the pirate, and you're the pirate ship and stuff, you know, so I don't know how much of the nautical aspect has come in Assassin's Creed past that. But this was kind of a little neat thing, just because it's very, you know, if you think about like Viking stereotypes, this is a very Viking kind of thing, and they're playing music as you're rowing. But the funny to me that one of the complaints I came away with that was the biggest, and before I get to that, you'll see that it says raid there. I did try doing a raid, but the raid I tried, this is an early build of the game, so it was having some issues, and it was just that particular raid had a part that wasn't working properly, and instead of trying different raids and you know, wasting more time, I kind of just went on with the game. I did get to see a little bit of the raid. I got to play it, but I just didn't want to keep stopping and trying them in case that was just a piece that the team was still working on. But so it's funny that of everything I came away thinking as a negative for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that this silly, non-important aspect of boating. So you see that the team just put the mast down, and they'll get to a point where they'll put the mast back up, and then they'll put the sail back up. Okay, so see right here, right? They put the mast back up, but we're just about to go into a bridge, so they put the mast back down. And that, of everything, as stupid as it is, that's the thing that bugged me most in this demo. Was that you'll be rowing along, and there'll be situations where the your boat team will put the sail up and then instantly put the sail back down, then put the sail back up, and then put the sail down, then put the mast down, and put the mast back up. Like, I would like to see the team, again, as stupid and small as this is, I would like to see the team have more, maybe broader triggers in the waterways. So like that last part where it knew I was going to be going under 2 bridges in a row in pretty quick succession, like, just keep the mast down at that point. I think it's not predicting far enough ahead.
On ocean speed, my words gain wings. All things meet I forth will bring.
And yeah, I know it's completely nitpicky. It is utterly and totally nitpicky.
The brave man slain Valkyrian ways. Reward for
So I don't think I have it in this video, but you can see in the bottom it said switch to stories, and so instead of having your crew sing music, they'll tell stories, which was kind of a neat little thing. You know, it's one of those just kind of atmosphere builders that doesn't affect gameplay in any way, but it just kind of adds to the whole atmosphere.
the brave man slain Valkyrian ways.
And we're almost there. So this is kind of, you know, and being I didn't get a chance to play the whole game and see how far the map opens, this isn't necessarily me saying this is the entirety of it, but you can kind of get a feel for how far I've traveled just in this video from the settlement to this one point. So the world did feel pretty big, and there are the teleportation points that I found were these docks. You could teleport from wherever you were at to a dock. I don't know if other teleportation points will open up past that, but... So we're actually coming up in a moment to one of my favorite points of this demo. And again, it's like my least favorite point and most favorite point were two stupid side things versus the actual core story. And gameplay and everything, you know. So you're about to see a Viking rap battle, if you will.
I've heard old Danes are cursed with slow brains and fat tongues. Care to prove me wrong?
Most men choose to be loud or stupid. Impressed that you manage both.
fighting spirit. How about
I didn't know at this point what I was wagering on, so I didn't.
Thank you.
I should have bet big, you know.
Let us begin.
I have sparred against champions and bested each one.
Oh, to beat such a braggart will surely be fun.
Ah, twisted right back. Be careful, young Earth. You're a misfit, a halfwit, a foolish old grouse.
You're a weakling, a milksop, a catcher, a louse.
Brilliant. I'm the greatest of flighters, a master of verse.
Did you bet on yourself? Then know that I will empty your purse.
Clumsy phrasing.
I liked that response, but
I'm impressed. You are as sharp as that axe on your belt.
As promised, I will have my winnings now.
Take the gold. You've earned it.
I thought that last response was a good response, but anyway, so yeah, it's like, and it's funny because going into this preview, you know, I had read that was one of the little things we would get to see, but I didn't comprehend what it was going to be until I got in the game. So we're about to meet my favorite character in what I got to play.
Eivor. Keep that up. Stain the floors.
The place could use some color.
Who are they?
All spies. Dressed to look the part of a peasant. Got feisty. Pitchfork. And this rabid little one. Was a time when you met and slew your enemy on the field before they could dream of things like singing spies.
Now we shake hands. The deal's
Not my thing.
figured.
I love them whipped, weeping, and breaking of peace. Hey! Good boy. You're free, Saxon piggy. Run amok, mercy and peace.
I would have let him down easy.
Follow me. I'll give you
So Ivar comes off like a little bit of a psychopath when you first meet him there, which he definitely is, but he's also just kind of crazy and
for which you were paid.
funny in certain ways. And he also reminds me a lot of Mickey Rourke from Iron Man 2 for some reason.
Sword. I ask what I please, and I take what I'm owed.
If I wanted to hear you talk shit, I'd gouge out your tongue and shove it up your ass. Now fuck off.
So we're getting a little bit more story here, so I'm going to shut up and then I'll come back in once this part is done, because this is kind of telling you
But worry not, Uba.
what's going on in the section I'm playing.
This is one of them. My worries have vanished.
Eivor, wolf-kissed, you have come at just the right time. Upa and Ivar here are hunting a king.
And when we've caught him, we mean to crown another. Our dear Thane Shellwolf here.
It's not a role I begged for, but it's what Mercia needs just now. A man to fairly rule both Saxons and Danes.
Do you have what it takes to be king?
One day, I hope. As it stands, we at least have an understanding.
The king has refused our offers of peace. Ceolwulf means to change that. There'll be a new king for a new England.
For now, Burgred is holed up in his fortress at Tamworth, making a final stand.
Another shithole. Only further south.
We've held a siege there for weeks to no effect. So, no more knocking. Now we batter the gate to splinters. If we take Tamworth, remove Burgred and crown Ceolwulf, come morning the Shire is ours. And Mercia soon after.
Yes, remove. I cannot stress that enough. Burgred is not to be harmed. My legitimacy as king hangs on this one simple fact.
You rob all the joy from war, Saxon.
Not every victory needs to be marked by the slaughter of a king.
But it is much better.
His request is fair, Ivar, and we will honor it.
Ceolwulf betrayed his present king. Maybe tomorrow he betrays us too. Why trust him?
How can I answer that with any hope that you'd believe me? I only want what is best for the people of Mercia. And I want what's best for my son. In Burgred's Mercia, where Danes and Saxons murder one another daily, it's not possible.
This is a good plan, brother. I am ready for the coming fight.
Agreed. Yet remember this. Whatever you stand to gain here, so do we. An alliance between my clan and Mercia's crown.
See this man installed on his throne and you will have it. I swear.
The bold sons of Ragnar bellow to sound the spear din and the thunder of shields. So let fall the arrow storm. The battle begins.
Ah! You never said this one was a poet.
I need to piss.
We have a forward camp just north of Tamworth. Will you go with us?
Lead the way.
Take in the sights of Repton if you like. We will be at the docks when you are ready to go.
I'm glad you and your brother have come, if only to bring some measure of calm.
Ease yourself, Ceolwulf. We all stand to benefit. And you'll be remembered for this for years to come.
For all the wrong reasons, I fear.
So of course, you know, getting to King Burgred is not going to be as easy as he would like to think it's going to be. So we're going to see here, this is the kind of siege that we do on Tamworth Fortress, where Burgred's held up, supposedly. And spoilers, he's not there.
Destroy the gate!
So, you know, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, is, like, what is the Assassin's Creed feel going to be to this game? Because you're going to see the combat here in a second, as I start to get used to this battering ram stuff. And, you know, combat definitely, like, it's, like, heavy and brutal and melee focused. Now, Eivor does have a bow, and there are both bow and kind of melee skills that you can use, but, you know, the kind of just the whole feel of this game from what I played of it is this kind of stuff, whereas I think of Assassin's Creed and I think of this one character sneaking into a location and taking out people on their own. You know, when you go on raids in this game, you've got the raiding party, the people on your boat, they go out with you, and so you've got all these kind of NPC teammates helping you out. I'm going to have NPC teammates here, so there's a lot more focus here on you being the leader or simply just part of a team, you know, a group of people that are fighting versus just this one person. And instead, like, if you're seeing kind of here, as I'm getting used to combat, this is my first time in combat, and to be clear, this was a demo that was streamed over the internet, so every now and then I did have some lag issues, and that wasn't anything on the game or Ubisoft or anything. It was just, the way streaming games over the internet works. But, you can see, like, the combat is heavier here, and right now I'm using an axe and a shield, but you can also dual wield, and it feels more head-on, it feels heavier, it feels, just more brutal and bloody, and so I'm really curious to see, what long-time Assassin's Creed fans are going to think of it. Like playing it as a non-fan, not in the way of disliking the games, or just not really played them. Like, this feels natural to me compared, when I compare it to like other third-person action adventures I've played before. But is it Assassin's Creed? And that's kind of just the whole question I had the entire time I was playing this. And so it was interesting for me coming from the edition I'm in, whereas I'm not just saying, writing it off as a longtime fan. I'm looking at it from kind of both sides, and I don't know. And so, even more so, I think, than the previous two. Which, from when I played of Origins, like, that still felt very Assassin's Creed to me, but I think Odyssey was the first one, which I've touched far less, but that was the first one where it was really, to me, seeming like it was getting away from the Assassin's Creed that I've always pictured in my head.
God grant me strength. Hold up, fight.
But there is still stealth, there is still assassinations. You're gonna see some of that in a little bit here, but it's like in the next part that we're gonna get to, where I am stealthier. I felt in this game at times like my character should just go in, head on. And I gotta bring up the Ghost of Tsushima connection again. But there was that whole thing in Tsushima where it's funny because Tsushima and Assassin's Creed Valhalla to me are opposites in multiple ways. And in this way, Tsushima was a game where you had a character who typically would go in head on, doing the honorable thing, whereas I started playing him more stealthy as the Ghost because I felt like that's kind of where that character would evolve into. Whereas here, kind of the natural thing you would think about is that this character should be doing, stealth assassinations and sneaking around through the shadows and blending in with crowds, and yet I felt like they should be played as the just run through the front gate, swinging weapons kind of character. So it's interesting that those kind of, the way those two kind of contrast each other. And so the other part of that too, then, I think, is Ghost of Tsushima and Assassin's Creed Valhalla are both stories about a land and its people being invaded by another land and its people. But the interesting part there is that Ghost of Tsushima, you were the person in the country being invaded, trying to protect your homeland from invaders, whereas here in Valhalla, you're the invader going to a different country, And so I think one of the dynamics that's going to be really interesting, and this here we're seeing more assassin-y stuff. I think one of the things I'm really interested in for this game is how is that kind of conflict and balance going to play out, because there are times in this game where it seemed to me like I was kind of passing by like kind of English peasants and villages and stuff, and so how are the English going to react to my character? How are the English going to react to the other people from my settlement? Is that going to cause conflict? Because in Tsushima, it was always I was the hero walking into a village, to save it from the invaders. Whereas here, I'm the invader walking into villages. So I'm curious to see how that's going to possibly play out differently. So here, like I said, you can see I'm climbing around and doing assassin-y stuff, but when I'm playing this, and it's not that the gameplay and things wrong with it, not that the controls are bad or you know, but I'm playing this and I'm asking myself, like, would my character do this? And that, I think, could be a question answered more, you know, by playing more of the game and seeing more of his or her, you know, progress and evolution. Like, are they a character who kind of grows into the assassin-y side? Because my understanding is this is kind of the earlier days of what leads to kind of the later Assassin's Brotherhood and things like that. I could be wrong on that, but, you know, so, like, what is it that makes my character switch doing these assassin-y kind of things? Is that something that was already in them, or is it something where, you know, Eivor starting as this just straightforward, brutal warrior who then more and more becomes the assassin? And then maybe in that point, you know, Ghost of Tsushima and Assassin's Creed Valhalla will mirror each other. So I don't know. It's a interesting question that I have. You know, there's a lot of questions I have from this, and this hands-on was just long enough that I walked away with a lot of questions about the game and wanting to know more about how it's going to evolve. Because it really is, like, it's you know, and maybe I'm overstating it at having not played much of Origins and Odyssey, but this really does feel to me like an interesting crossroads between what Assassin's Creed was and what maybe it's going to be more of in the future. But it's just funny. It's funny and weird for me to sit here and think about an Assassin's Creed game where I specifically don't want to be an assassin. You know, it's I don't know. Like it's weird, but maybe it's not wrong. You know, or is the argument that Ubisoft could rename this into something else and have it be, you know, as an Assassin's Creed side story or a completely different... Like, I feel like if I was playing this game and didn't know from the start that it was Assassin's Creed, I would never think this is Assassin's Creed. Because, you know, in this day and age, like, there's enough games out there. And this is the Crow part. I was trying to get used to the controls because it's a little bit weird. Because I'm sitting here thinking that a crow should control like an airplane, which obviously it shouldn't, you know. So I was just kind of, I'm flying around just getting a feel for how flight works. But you know, there's enough games in this era where, you know, stealth and stealth assassinations and climbing things, like, those are in tons of games now. So even though you might sit here and say, well, you're obviously doing Assassin's Creed-y kind of stuff, like, well, to be fair, at this point, there's a lot of games that have this, and they're not Assassin's Creed. So there's a part of me that thinks I could play this, and from what I played, again, from the 3 hours I played, that this is an Assassin's Creed game. So that's one of the really interesting parts, is what is its identity going to be, and what will it be once you've completely played through it and seen the entire thing.
Good timing. We would have stormed the place without you.
So here you see the assassin vision. I say that having... You know what? I'm not going to look it up. You know, looking at the cheating, I'm gonna just admit that I don't know the name of the term for that vision thing. But you kind of see here, you know, how you can see where the different, you know, enemies are at, and let's do a stealth kill here in a second. But like this, like just, it was so funny to me to do that, because I'm like, this is my, you know, big brute Viking girl. Like, should she be jumping off of ledges and stabbing people in the neck, you know? The world looks really nice, like, you know, it's, and I really want to see it actually on a proper, you know, get it on next gen, get it on PS5 or Xbox Series X/S, you know, because again, this was a streaming demo, so streaming is always going to do damage to the quality. Like what you're seeing right here is direct capture for the game, but you know, when I was seeing it through a stream, so I really want to see it as it should be, you know. But I don't show a lot of it, but I spent a decent chunk of time when I'd gotten a lot of the questing stuff done. I just kind of ran around and looked around, and it's a really nice looking game. I mean, I suppose it's easy at this point to say, you know, oh, there's a new open world game that has a beautiful world to run around in, but it, you know, it is, and I think it can be easy for us to kind of take that for granted at this point. And it is, again to bring it up, like, it's interesting for me to have gone from Tsushima to this, you know, and this may at this point be my next open world game. And so to go from two completely different settings, you know, historic Japan to historic England. But this is kind of just me running around a little bit to show you a little bit of the wilds that are around. And like any good open world game, you know, when I was running around, I ran into people who have quests, I ran into kind of just dynamic events and all that kind of fun stuff. But I'm definitely, you know, not to disparage the current gen versions, but I think at this point, I think there's no game that I don't want to play on next gen, you know, if I have the choice between the two. And this especially is the kind of game where I think you're going to want to play it next generation. You know, with everything going on with these kind of open world stuff, with the bigger battles and everything, just you want to play on next gen if you have the chance. So it's you know, I mean, obviously the question now is what did I think of it? You know, I played 3 hours of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. What did I think of it? And I had fun, you know. And I'm not trying to make that sound like wishy-washy or anything. It's I think my problem is that it was 3 hours of a much larger game. And that's always just this tiny little taste of what you're going to get, and it's never enough to really truly tell you what the game is going to be. And obviously, again, as somebody who's not an Assassin's Creed fan, is this going to make fans happy or not? I don't know. But what I can say is just that I think the setting and the characters that Ubisoft have put together here are interesting. They're compelling to me, and I want to see more of where this goes. And especially just because, you know, Eivor to me feels like such a different character for the series, that when you take kind of that traditional Assassin's Creed and then what Ubisoft has been doing with more modern Assassin's Creeds, like compared to both of those, this feels like a different character, and that's exciting to me. But it also leaves me in a place where I just don't know, you know, how this game's going to be. Like, what is it going to be? What's the story going to end up being like? How is this character going to progress? But I mean, that's a good thing, right? Like, not knowing is a good thing, because then it makes you want to play and find out. And I am definitely curious to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla when it comes out on next gen. I would be playing it on there. And yeah, so this has been a short look at, you know, the game. Not an expert on Assassin's Creed, but hopefully I had the chance to give you a perspective from somebody coming at it from a different viewpoint. And maybe you'll enjoy it, maybe you won't. But the best part is finding out.